My brother-in-law and his wife lived in New York City until 9/11. And when 9/11 came, they decided it really was time for them to leave New York City. They wanted to raise a family, so they left their place on Grove Street down in the village and they moved out to Rockland County. Well, so did a lot of their friends. They were all about that time in their life when they wanted to start families, so they all moved out to Rockland County, including their friend Stevie Mallet. Now, Stevie wasn't really interested in starting a family. All he had was his dog Buster, but he didn't want to be left behind. So Stevie moved out to Rockland County too, and he bought himself a house. Stevie bought a house right next to a retired couple, Salvatore and Carmela, right from Italy. Now, you'd think that a party boy like Stevie Mallet and his little dog Buster wouldn't have a whole lot in common with Salvatore and Carmela. But that wasn't the case at all. Carmela, she worried about Stevie. I mean, there was Stevie. He had no wife. All he had was that dog Buster. You know how dogs are, chasing the mailman, digging holes in the backyard. So she would go over twice a week with a tray of lasagna and some eggplant parmesan. Now, Stevie, he worried about Salvatore. All the house chores, you know, climbing up on the ladder, cleaning out the leaders and gutters. So Stevie would go over and help Salvatore whenever he could. And they had another thing in common. They both raised rabbits. And they had a lot to talk about. Well, it turned out that Salvatore and Carmela decided to go down to Pennsylvania for a few days to visit their daughter. They needed someone to look after the rabbits. So who were they going to ask? They go right over and ask Stevie. Stevie says, no problem, I'll take care of the rabbits as if they were my own. So off go Salvatore and Carmela. Stevie takes care of the rabbits. On Friday night, Stevie came home. And he did what he did every Friday night. First thing he did was open the refrigerator door, take out a beer, open it up, start to drink it. Usually on Friday, Stevie didn't feel much like walking Buster the dog, so he would just open the back door and let Buster run. And there was Stevie, drinking his beer. And there was Buster, out in the backyard. And then Buster came over to Stevie. And when Stevie looked down, he saw something in Buster's mouth. He looked a little closer. It was a rabbit. Stevie bent down and he said, Buster, what did you do when he took the rabbit out of Buster's mouth? And he knew it wasn't one of his. It was one of Carmela's. It was kind of dirty. It was really limp. He shook it. Nothing happened. So Stevie went over into the kitchen, he turned on the tap, he washed the rabbit, nothing happened. Stevie could not bring himself to tell Carmela that Buster had killed one of her rabbits. So he took that rabbit that he had tried to fluff up, went into the garage, opened one of the rabbit cages and stuck the dead rabbit in the back, shut the cage. The next day, Salvatore and Carmela came home. Stevie was in the driveway when they arrived. Stevie waved when they got out of the car. They waved. Stevie said, how was it? Did you have a good time? Oh, we had a wonderful time. And Stevie went right into his house. A few minutes later, he heard a little knock on the door. He opened up the door. It was Salvatore. Salvatore came in. He and Stevie started to talk. After a while, Salvatore looked at Stevie. He said, you know, Stevie, Carmela really loves her rabbits. He said, I like rabbits. He said, I think they're cute. You know, they're little fluffy creatures with long ears and little round tails. But to be honest with you, Stevie, I can't tell one rabbit from the other. But not Carmela. Carmela, she knows every single rabbit in her hutch. She gives each one of them a name. She's got Peter Cottontail, Mr. McDonald. She's got Fluffy, Mopsy, Grumpy, Sneezy. She's got them all named. So, of course, you know, Stevie, the minute we get home, the first thing Carmela does is she goes out to talk to the rabbits. And I'm sitting in the kitchen, and in comes Carmela. She's got a dead rabbit in her hand. She looks at me. She goes, Salvatore, how could such a thing happen? Well, I want to comfort the poor woman. I look at her. I say, oh, Carmela, I don't know. It's the will of God. She said, no, no, Salvatore. It is not the will of God. This is Sneezy. Sneezy died the day before we went to Pennsylvania. I took Sneezy into the backyard. I dug a hole for Sneezy. I said a prayer to St. Francis and I buried Sneezy. So you tell me, Salvador, how did Sneezy get up out of the ground and into the back of one of our cages? And Salvatore looked at Stevie, and he asked him the very same question. So, Stevie, how did Sneezy get into the back of one of our cages? And as far as I know, Stevie never came up with a good answer to that question. And that's the story of Sneezy.